Cool. Everywhere?
Yep.
Great. We are live. Welcome back to Switchcast Live. We appreciate you being here. We are happy to be here tonight. I am your host, Doug Tabbitt, and Switchcast is the podcast where we seek to educate, edify, and entertain you on the drive of your life. Season 3 this season, we've been focusing mostly on topics that help buyers and sellers be smarter along the way and avoid pitfalls and traps when they're buying and selling cars. And tonight is no exception. We are going to entertain you, but we're also going to talk about the main topic, which is what do you do or what do you not do when you've taken a bath on your car? Now, this is... this wasn't a topic 3 years ago because everybody expected to lose money on their cars. For the most part, that's not entirely true. The investment game has been a thing for a while, but it ebbs and flows with market conditions and as hype builds up. And certainly from like 2014 to 15, the market had run up big time. And people saw cars as investments, and then that interest kind of waned, and nobody really was into rare cars and buying them up as investments in like 2017 to 19. My goodness, a 997 GT3 RS, I had multiple that I had a hard time selling at $125,000. Like they sat. They sat.
It hurts my soul. I still don't have that kind of money now, but it's closer.
Right. I mean, air-cooled Porsches for not cheap, but cheaper. $50,000 for a G50 911 Carrera 3.2, but whatever. We all have hindsight. We knew that happened, but the point of the discussion is like it is hilarious to me that I have to coach people on what to do when their car goes down in value, even though the general rule of thumb is cars go down in value. But we've become so accustomed. It's like people forget history immediately. We've become so accustomed to cars going up in value the last couple of years that we don't know what to do when the opposite happens. But speaking of the opposite, I like doing a market update, kind of picking a vehicle each week to see how it fits in with the market and how it gives us a real-time data point of what the market's doing. And even in this declining market, and it certainly is declining, there are some outliers, and it's very, very difficult to figure out what's going to defy the market. But this week, a 1998 Viper GTS-R, one of the championship edition cars, they're all in white with blue stripes, and they essentially commemorate the Le Mans Viper GT2. And forgive me if I get that backwards because I've gotten it backwards forever. I used to think that the street version was GT2 and the race version was GTSR, and maybe that is the case, but it's one of those things. It's like you say it so many times, you never remember which is which, and you convince yourself you're wrong every time. But anyway, and I feel like the racing version should be called GTSR, but regardless,
it is GTSR.
The street version is GTSR.
The race car is GTSR.
What? And the street one is GT2?
Hold up. I'm gonna figure this out.
I think it's backwards of what we think. This is our problem. Anyway, it's the white with blue stripes one with BBS wheels and a giant wing and racing harnesses, and they only made 100 of them. 100 or 200? Now I'm really failing. Anyway,
I can't Google this fast, Doug.
Super rare. And I've had a hankering for one of those for a long time, but I've never pulled the trigger, mostly because I can't get over the 6-inch wheel gap and the Chrysler PT Cruiser steering wheel. Like it's truly, truly awful. Every time I get close to buying a Viper, I look at the steering wheel and go, I can't stare at that when I'm driving down the road. Anyway, maybe I could remove the airbag and put an early 3-spoke wheel on it. Regardless, I digress. But I'm going to digress a little bit more. I'm nearly positive, I can't find the photo, but a girl that I was seeing in college worked for this pizza delivery place, or knew a pizza delivery guy or something like that in her town that used a Viper GTSR as their, like, they own the place, but they would deliver pizzas in the Viper GTSR.
That's nuts.
And I know, I'm almost positive I saw a picture of it because she wouldn't know what a GTSR was. She's just like, oh, it's a car with stripes, you know. I shouldn't say that. I think she was into cars. But regardless, I have this picture burned in my brain, but I went through my photos. I couldn't find it for the life of me. But that was like a life goal, seeing that, being like, I want to be that guy. Yeah. Some people dream of parking cars in collections in a bubble, and I'm like, no, I want to deliver pizzas in a Viper.
So one of these 100
subtle flex.
Yeah. One of these 100 GTSRs has like pizza grease on the seats from being used as a delivery car.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, but you'd keep the pizza warm, that's for sure. You can only deliver one at once, but you'd
It'll
keep
be fast
it warm.
and warm.
Oh, yeah. During COVID, actually, I almost, can I say that word, or do we get like taglines at the bottom of our video now?
We might get fact checked, but as long as you're, go for it.
Okay, during the pandemic, when they first like shut everybody down, I wasn't sure if we were able to keep the dealership open or whatever. I had a Ford Lightning in stock, and I was like, well, screw it. I've got a racing suit and a racing helmet, so that should be like COVID safe, right? And I was going to start lightning fast delivery and just do DoorDash and like just make videos and pick people's lunches up and stuff. Like my friend has a restaurant. I was just going to do delivery for him and just rolling burnouts every time I left, and like e-brake, pull it up, you know, just like, who cares? There's nobody on the roads. The cops aren't doing anything. It would have been so sweet. And like the most disappointing thing, or I guess the most exciting thing about that period of time was like, oh man, I'm going to have nothing to do. I can do all these crazy ideas that I've been wanting to do. And then our business picked up like immediately because everybody was buying cars. And when I thought our business was going to completely die, it just ballooned. So I didn't get to do that. And to this day, I rue that I didn't make those videos. It would have been so much fun.
No, that would have been amazing.
Just to go through set of rear tires every 3 days, delivering lunches, tooling around town with nobody on the roads, drifting a pickup truck around. Here's your salad or whatever. Sorry.
I already mixed the dressing in there for you.
This is why Tyler's on the show. None of this was yours. Ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so we're going to get to 20% of our topics tonight. Oh, man. Speaking of which, all of you who are with us live, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok, thank you for joining us. Hey, interact with us. Post your comments, good, bad, ugly, whatever. And questions, whatever, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. If we can't get to them during the live show, we have a bonus round afterwards called Tip Talk, and which is only for the live viewers, and we'll get to your questions then. But by all means, if you want to discuss or have questions about what we're talking about, throw them in there, and we'll do our best to get to them. So, Viper GTSR, 100 of them made. This particular one was listed on Bring a Trailer in 2021. It had like 1,900 miles, I think. So super low collector mile example, which most of them are. Man, you look at Prowlers, they mass produce those things, and most of those got stuck away in collections. They all have like 800 miles on them, you know, but it's like 100 of these Vipers, it's impossible to find one driven. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's not impossible, but yeah. The Chrysler collectors shoved them away. Sold for $150,000 in 2021. I started looking for one around that time. I should have friggin' just pulled the trigger, because this one got relisted, and rarely do you see stuff relisted on Bring a Trailer. They are getting diluted by 800 listings per week, but they've done a good job of not doing like eBay where they just relist and relist and relist, right? Like that's one of their strongest points, is you won't see a car on there multiple times if it doesn't sell. This particular one did get listed 3 times, but there was a year in between each listing. So the guy listed it, not sold, for $150 in 2021, not sold for $166 in 2022, sold for $190 this week.
What?
Right?
I was about to like give this guy crap for holding on. Like, just take the money, man. But whoa,
Right?
that is nuts.
Like complete opposite curve of the entire rest of the collector car market.
Yeah.
And even Vipers had a pretty big dip last year, kind of ahead of the rest of the market, and now they're coming back because there was a 20,000 mile yellow late, like a 2001 RT10 that sold this week for 70 grand, I think. I mean, big money for an RT10. It was a later model, but anyway, I thought that was cool because I don't think it's cool, right? Because that's a car I want, and it's going up in value, and everything else, including my net worth, is going down with the rest of the market. And I'm like, come on. But this is a message to people that think they're car experts, right? Like, I do this for a living all the time. I'm in the market watching it all the time. I can't friggin' predict these trends. I can't predict these curves. I can't seem to get the timing right. You know, like, I make my money based off of buying a $5 bill for $4 and reconditioning it and selling it for $5. But, you know, to try to, you know, predict that a $5 bill is going to be $7, especially when everything else is going down, it's, man, you're either lucky or a genius, but either way, you're smarter than me. But this is why I tell people, like, don't try to think of them as investments, because you never freaking know what something's going to do. And the stark reality is that your collector car, with certain exceptions, right now is not worth what you paid for it if you bought it in the last 2 years. It just isn't. Everything has gone down in value. So what next, right? So let's say you want to get out. Let's say you way overpaid for a car last year. You got caught up in the hype, whatever, and you're upside down on the car. Whether you owe money on it, or whether you own it outright, doesn't matter. How do you handle, you know, the loss? What do you do? And the reason this is a question, I feel like it shouldn't be, but it is, because I've had two really difficult examples this week with clients who just could not get out of their own way when it came to dealing with selling a car for less than they paid for it last year. And one of them, a great example of what not to do, you know, they're looking to get out of it, so they called a bunch of dealers, which is, you know, fair enough, right? You can either take the dealer route because you can get a check right away if that's what you need, or you can put it on Rentless, bring a trailer, P-Car Market, whatever, go through the auction route or the retail route and deal with the tire kickers and try to get retail. But there's always risk there. A dealer check is in hand right now. And I give the customer respect because they reached out to me, even though I didn't sell them the car, but they had had a good experience and they wanted to give me the opportunity. So I wasn't particularly interested in the car, but I had a buyer for it, and they made kind of a low offer in the 140s. No, thanks. I've already got 150 something covered. Okay, thanks again. Well, my buyer came back and said, screw that. I really want the car. Let's go 153, see if it'll beat them out. And so I told the customer, and they said, yeah, well, the other dealer offered me 150, so they're probably going to be upset if I like back out because they've already sent me paperwork, but, you know, I think I'll sell it to you because it's a better number. Now, I've been on the other end of that umpteen million times where somebody has sold me out after agreeing to a deal, and I hate it. However, I've lost that so many times that I'm like, listen, I'm not going to tell you what you should do because your ethics are your problem. This is not me having an ethical quandary, right? I just made you an offer. You do you, but if I get a win because you're unscrupulous, fine, because I've gotten so many losses. And I'm like, fine, whatever. Somebody else can feel my pain. As long as
I've
been
been waiting for this for years.
Well, no, but like I wouldn't do that to somebody, but I'm like, you know what? Fine. If you're going to do that to somebody, it's been done to me so many times, you might as well do it to somebody else and let me have a win. However, he was so like, granted, he paid like 180, right? So he was upside down on the car, but he kept going back and forth like, oh, well, can you give me like $1,000 more? Because they came back and matched my offer, even though they're upset that like I didn't, you know, agree to the original deal. And I was like, no, I can't. He's like, well, just, I think 155 will get it. And I called him, I texted him, I said, my buyer's out. And so he called me. He's like, well, what does that mean? Do you think he can get to 155? Because I don't think the other dealer will pay it. And I was like, I don't know what you know about what I'm out means or what you don't understand, but he's out. Well, do you think, like, they said they'd match your offer, but I don't think, they said they'd be out at 155. So I think if you pay that, then you get it. I was like, I don't think you understand. My buyer said he's out. So this was like a 15-minute, 20-minute conversation, like on repeat. And finally, I'm just like, listen, you've lost my guy because you're trying to nickel and dime and play two parties against each other. You're probably going to lose your other guy, and you're going to be stuck with no buyers because you're trying to nickel and dime. I'm like, the other party gave you an offer. They matched my offer even after you sold them out. You should really sell the car to them and be like a good guy. At this point, I don't even care about losing a deal. I'm just like, just do the right thing, because you're going to end up screwing yourself out of the offer you have. And the whole point of that long story was like, if you have a deal in hand, friggin' take it. Like, I've lost so many deals by trying to, like, not necessarily play one buyer against another, but just saying like, well, I have 3 buyers interested. I'm not going to take this guy's offer because it might get a little more from somebody else. And it almost never works out. So if you're trying to get out from a car, forget about what you have into it. And just like, you've got to erase that pain and say, okay, I've lost money. What is the best way to get out of it now? What is the simplest way? And if you have a good offer, take it. Don't try to go back and forth with people, because especially with dealers, because people don't have patience for that, especially dealers. And it is a buyer's market. So if you dilly-dally around, the buyer might find another better deal somewhere else, or change his mind tomorrow because he saw an auction result or something. Like 2 years ago, that worked. The longer you waited, the better the offers got. That rarely happens. That's not a normal thing. Right now, you take the offer that you have in hand. And I preach that to myself too, because I've made some bad calls on that too. You're playing the law of odds when you have a lot of cars for sale. But anyway, that's one thing. Let's go to a commercial. We'll go to a segment, and then we'll come back to the other example of what not to do in order to recover value on your car or minimize your losses.
Switchcast is brought to you by Boxcast. Boxcast is a live streaming company based in Cleveland, Ohio, and they serve broadcasters and viewers around the world. Their founders launched Boxcast back in 2013 with one purpose: to make people a part of the experience. So if you're looking to live stream your podcast, church service, car show, sporting event, wedding, or even your cannonball attempt, Boxcast is an easy and flexible live streaming platform for organizations. Boxcast is so easy that we're broadcasting this show with a phone. So head on over to switchcars.com/Boxcast for your free trial. And as is tradition here now at Switchcast, it looks like Doug has taken a bit of a break or something. I don't know what he's doing. And the Corvette curmudgeon has joined us today. How are you doing this evening?
Wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. The sun is shining. It's not, too hot outside. We're doing pretty all right.
Yep. Humidity level is about 60%, which is right in the range I'll drive my Corvette. And it's not going to rain for 2 days.
Did you drive your Corvette here tonight?
Nope. Don't want to put the miles on it.
Okay,
but it would have been a good day.
Yeah.
There's also no shows on the way. So, I only go out if there's a trophy potentially involved.
Well, maybe we'll have one for you in the future so that we can actually see this car you've talked
what
to us
classes would there be?
Corvette class? What do you have,
No,
a C5?
it's not specific enough.
Do you have yours is a C5,
Yeah,
right?
C5, yes.
What color is it?
Light carmine red.
So we'd
One
have
of 382 in 1998.
So we'd have a 1998 light carmine red C5 Corvette class.
Okay,
And
I'm good with
I
that.
think you could probably do pretty all right.
I'd probably be the only one.
Well, you'd win.
Yeah, that's what I like. Yep.
So
I only go to shows I can win.
I like the honesty. So tonight I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite car memory that you have?
Oh, yeah. Getting up there, so some of them I forget.
And I imagine you've had a lot of great memories with cars.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Every trophy I've won was a good memory. There's been lots of them because my Corvette is best Corvette.
Do you have them displayed?
No, but back in 1998, take a trip down to Bowling Green, Kentucky, and did the the museum delivery, and but I went there 3 weeks early, and I got a very cheap hotel, and met up with the bluegrass region of the Corvette Club. And got to talk to them about my special Corvette that was being built, and then went to the factory to watch it being finished, come off the line and everything, and then, showed up at the museum and got a lunch at the restaurant there. It was friggin' expensive. There's friggin' rip-offs there. They got you there, but, it was great because all the factory workers said my Corvette was their favorite Corvette. It was the best one they had made, and, that was just a great time. Great memory.
And you've had it ever since.
I've had it ever since.
Did you drive it home from the Corvette Museum?
Well, yeah, I drove it home. That's the most miles it's ever seen because, shippers are friggin' expensive, and they wouldn't let me watch them load it and wrap it in plastic myself, before it got loaded up. So, they wanted $500 to ship it to Ohio.
Honestly, in 1998, that's a lot of money to ship a car. I feel your pain. That sucks.
Yeah. So I drove it. I waited for a nice day and made sure checked the weather the whole way. Never saw a drop of water.
So what did you do for the 3 weeks beforehand? That's a lot of time.
I went to the factory every day.
Okay, I see. You just watched your car the entire time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, this was an unexpectedly wholesome Corvette curmudgeon question. I didn't expect to go this way, but that sounds really fantastic.
Heck yeah.
I just think you should maybe drive your car more. But hey, we'll touch on that next week.
Buy your own if you want to drive it.
Hey, Corvette curmudgeon, we got a question in TikTok.
For you.
Yeah. Lucas T is wondering what your go-to adult beverage is.
Friggin' Coors Light.
There we go.
Can't drink Bud Light. No.
All right. Let's,
And there it is. Thank you very much to the Corvette curmudgeon for joining us again today. He is brought to you unwittingly by the Corvette Buy Sell Trade Group on Facebook, which is your source for cranky boomers, overpriced Corvettes, and reinforced stereotypes.
So funny.
Okay.
I love Ethan. You giggle at the exact same
It's
time.
so funny. Every time I hear it gets me.
I'm really funny when I sit down and write.
In the moment is tough, but you give me like 4 hours and I'll have a great comeback.
So speaking of the Corvette Buy Sell Trade Group, so somebody posted a Corvette C8 in there a couple days ago for 10 grand over sticker, which is a really dangerous thing to do in that group because they cannot stand any rip-off dealers, flippers, whatever. Anybody selling anything for over stickers is a no-go in the Corvette Buy Sell Trade Group. Even a C8 Z06, which they're going for like 100 grand over sticker, but man, you post one for 20 grand over and they nail you to the wall. But anyway, somebody posted one for 10 grand over, which is, there's no denying that's too much. They are going for sticker or below right now, and it was a used one. So somebody posted a response that had this group link to C8 Corvettes at MSRP or less, and it like had this meme of me in it, and I was like, huh, what, did he just make that? And I clicked through, and I found that a meme of me is the cover photo for the C8 Corvettes at MSRP or less Facebook group. It was like something like, my Corvette is best Corvette because I bought it for less than sticker, said Doug Tabbitt probably.
It's so good.
It's equal to or less than MSRP Corvette is best Corvette.
Yes. Their tagline is a group for ethical and enthusiastic C8 sales.
The ethical part of that is just hilarious to me. Like, what?
Well, what's more hilarious to me, and maybe they're just like double ironic and I'm missing it, but the irony is that, like, little do they know how much breath I've wasted defending the ethics of ADMs, or over sticker price for those not familiar with car dealer lingo. And also that I, like, essentially started my business selling cars over sticker, flipping them. Now, of course, the Corvette curmudgeon would never, ever, ever pay ADM. And they would only probably buy at a discount if you included museum delivery. But the real Doug Tabbitt, non-Corvette curmudgeon, is a fan of capitalism. Not collusion or market manipulation, mind you, because I think there's a big difference there. But cars should sell MSRP, the S stands for suggested, and cars should sell for over or under whatever the market will bear. It's not dealers being greedy. It's just that's what they're selling for. If a dealer is greedy when the market doesn't support it, if a dealer asks 10 grand over sticker when the market's sticker, they're not going to get it. So they can't force the market. But speaking of over under sticker, since everybody's been tired of paying way, way, way too much for cars the last 2 years, there's some good news. According to Kelley Blue Book, the average price Americans paid for a new vehicle in May, while it did increase, the increase has tempered and it remained below sticker price. The average new car is selling below sticker for the 5th consecutive month, as opposed to last year where I think it was like 96% of new cars sold over sticker, something crazy like that. The average price basically all of this year has been below sticker price. Now, it's interesting though, because the overall price has gone up, the average sale price, but the price relative to MSRP has declined because the manufacturers have been like jacking up the sticker price the last year to quote unquote keep up with inflation, which I think it's more just keep up with demand, because manufacturers have posted record profits typically the last couple years. So like keeping up with inflation is not keeping up with inflation. It's them just, well, everybody's paying over, so we're going to reap the benefits of that instead of the dealers or the flippers or whatever. However, they're a little late to the ball game, and I find it funny that manufacturers are increasing prices going into this, essentially recession, because now they're offering incentives and rebates and crap. So, like, strategically, whatever. I'm not a big-time automotive CEO strategist. I don't get paid the big bucks. They probably know something I don't. But it seems counterintuitive to me because they're devaluing their product by perception. Because anytime you have a rebate, it's like, oh, we're pushing this product. Whereas if they had just kept the sticker price where it was, they'd still be selling for sticker. And that perception of demand, a perception of value in their product would still be strong. So I don't get it, but
you know how people say perception is reality? Does that apply to the car market in that kind of way that you're talking about right there?
I perceive it to be.
All right.
Yeah.
We don't have the
Eyes just
drum
got
kit
so
out here.
big.
I think so, but in one way I see that more in the sense of, like, you can't change the market, right? If people don't have money because of inflation, if their budgets are squeezed, then their budgets are squeezed, period. And they're not going to be buying new cars. And that's a very real issue here. But in the high-end market, there's more emotions that go into it because it's typically people's extra money. It's disposable income for people fairly wealthy. So there's like a herd mentality. So when something becomes valuable to a few people, it becomes valuable to a lot. So people want what everybody else wants, and nobody wants what nobody else doesn't want, which is why cars are a terrible investment, because when everybody else is buying them, it's too late for you to capitalize on them, right? Like you have to be using the Warren Buffett mentality of be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. You buy the cars that nobody wants when nobody wants them, because eventually the herd mentality will take over and everybody will want them. So long-winded answer to that. But yeah, I think in the collector car world, perception is for sure reality. But back to when you do lose money on your car, what do you do? I had another experience this week where somebody decided not to sell their 991.1, so 2016 GT3 RS, because they were taking too big of a loss on it. And they're like, I can't stomach. They're like, I can't stomach the $40K loss for a car I put 300 miles on. Which, one, you should have put more miles on it. But the reason they didn't is because they didn't like the car. So it's like, okay, if you don't like the car, sell it. Why hold on to something you don't like? However, their response was, I'm going to put the car in a bubble and hold it for like 5 years to recover my money.
Don't
And
most
I was
911s like continue depreciating for a bit? Sorry if I was cutting you off.
No, I'm sighing at the customer, not you. It's there's so many things wrong with this. The first is that I had a shipper there booked and a sold customer on the car because he committed to sell it. That was also wrong. But
yikes.
The mentality, the thought process is wrong. It's right if you're thinking about stocks, right? Or houses. Because if you have investments in the stock market in your retirement, if you sell when stuff is down, then you're taking the loss. If you don't sell, then you haven't lost money, right? Because historically, stocks go up at approximately 10% per year on average, period. And if it's your retirement, then there's no reason to sell now. You keep it in and you just ride it out. Houses historically have increased in value. Only a couple periods where they decreased. So it's like, well, if you're selling in a down period, that's dumb because you're realizing a loss that you would make back on the upswing. However, cars don't work that way because cars aren't investment. Cars don't historically follow that curve, right? So he's already lost the money. He didn't want to sell because he's like, well, I don't want to lose 40 grand. I'm like, you've already lost 40 grand. The question is now, if you realize it, you can take that 200 grand and put it into something else and essentially recover your money, right? Put it in the stock market, put it in real estate, put it in a better car that will recover value. And he's like, his response is, well, cars aren't investments for me. And I'm like, but you're literally thinking of it as an investment because you're going, I don't want to lose the money. I'm going to put it in a bubble to recover it. And I'm like, that doesn't work because one, you picked the wrong car. It's a 2016 RS, which is not rare. Like every Corvette pace car ever made is more rare than a 2016 RS. They made like 2,000 of them or 2,500 just for North America. They produced the crap out of the 991 RSs. And it wasn't low mileage. It was 18,000 miles, which, I mean, it's low mileage for a Toyota, but in the grand scheme of collectible stuff, if you're going to put a car in a bubble, you start with the best, lowest mileage example you can and keep it that way because those are the cars that bring the most money because other collectors want them. So, if you're buying a piece of art, you don't want a piece of art that, somebody's children painted over, right? It's the one kept in a gallery. So, like, one, you're doing it with the wrong car. Two, you have the wrong mentality. Three, the old Dave Ramsey rationale. If you had 200 grand sitting on your kitchen table with which to do something, either buy a car you want or buy an investment, would you buy this car? And the answer would be no, because he already said he didn't want the car because he bought it. He didn't like it. It wasn't the right car for him. So I'm like, you've already made a mistake in buying the car at big value and losing money on it. Don't compound that mistake. Like, just admit, okay, I bought the wrong car, get out, and then either get into a better car if you want a car to be like an enjoyable investment, then find something that, will perform Find an actual rare car with really low mileage. And 2, something that you like. Because there's nothing worse than sitting on a car that you're stuck in that you don't like. I've been there multiple times where it's like, if I get stuck with a car that I love, awesome, great. So I'll drive it for 5 years and whatever. I'll enjoy it while the value recovers, or maybe it never will, but I don't care because I love it. But there's an old dealer, I can't remember who this was, but a friend of mine told me, he asked this dealer, like, what do you've got a pretty interesting collection. How did you decide what to buy? And he goes, well, I only collect my mistakes. Right? So you keep them long enough, they pay off. But, anyway. So, right. If you lost money on a car and you want to sell it, just sell it, right? Don't try to play the game like it's going to come back, whatever. Buy something else you want to keep, and move on, or put money in a real investment, right? You got to separate those two things. So, that was frustrating for me, not only because somebody went back on their word, but just the amount of bad rationale that I could not make this guy see that all of his decisions were wrong. Or his rationale for his decisions were wrong. Like, they just don't make any sense. And I'm like, whatever. And you just charge them by the hour, and then they can be as wrong as they want, and I can laugh all the way to the bank. Be like, okay, cool, that session was $500, and
You just
call me in 2 weeks because you'll still be wrong, and I'll charge you another $500.
just to become like a car ownership therapist for people.
I've seriously considered it.
Don't take any insurance. You can afford it yourself.
We don't take insurance plans. That's funny. Oh gosh. Okay. Well, with that, let's move on to commercial and on to our next segment.
And Switchcast is brought to you by Celebrity Machines. Celebrity Machines offers more than 250 different screen-accurate license plates as they've appeared in movies and TV shows such as Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, The Fast and the Furious, Breaking Bad, and so many more. Celebrity Machines also makes our dealer insert plates, as well as our commemorative 2539 plates from the fastest cannonball run ever. Visit celebritymachines.com for more info, and use promo code SWITCHCAST to save 25.39% at checkout.
Excellent. So, Celebrity Machines brings you the Wall of Shame. The Wall of Shame is the dealer's opportunity to review the customer, because we rarely have that chance, at least publicly anyway. However, once again, I couldn't help myself but to add a dealer to the Wall of Shame, only because this professional sales consultant posted in a dealer page attempting to make fun of a Karen. And this dealer page is great because essentially it's just a bunch of Wall of Shame. Like, look at what this customer did. Look at what that customer did. This, negotiations are hilarious, and it's very entertaining. So he attempts to make fun of a Karen and ends up getting so roasted by other salespeople of dubious scrupulously. Scrupulousness is that a Michael Scott word?
I feel like the opposite of unscrupulous has to be a thing, but
but anyway, that he self-owned himself and earned his place on the Wall of Shame. So this is the cliff notes of the email that he posted trying to shame the client. Quote, I was interested in the Toyota you have and was speaking with Joe Blow in sales. He would not give me any info I requested because he said his managers want me to come look at the vehicle in person. Typical, somewhat annoying sales tactic. They just want to get you in so they can close you. And it's like, this is the age of the internet. Friggin', use it to your advantage. Continuing. I was just in a car accident that resulted in my car being totaled. I'm extremely grateful that I didn't ask someone to drive me over an hour just to find out that the price of the vehicle is $8,000 over the advertised price. I am not a Karen by any means. That being said, good luck conducting business. And a little more background, like she posted that she used to be in the car business and, she had like broken ribs and broken leg and all this stuff. So she's like, I'm not going in. Like, just give me the information, give me the price. So she says the vehicle was $8,000 more than the advertised price. So he's like shaming her. Like, he goes, uh-oh, here comes a 1-star review. Also, you have to say, I'm not a Karen, then you are a Karen. And then he follows that up to like inform the dealer page. We have a $4,000 protection package and $1,200 dealer fee on all new and used cars.
What?
Yeah. So he immediately, and this is like a group that these guys love pulling gross. They brag about 10-pounders, which is, $10,000 gross deals, and how much they can make on the back end and all that. Like, reading this makes me not want to be a sales guy at a dealership and not want to go to a dealership because, they live for profit. And they just roasted this guy. They're like, so what you're saying is basically what she wrote was true.
Yeah.
You wouldn't give her any information. You wanted her to get her in the door so you could slap your $6,000 worth of friggin' mandatory extras. And this is like, I sell $100,000 cars. We might gross $5,000 total. They're talking Toyota RAV4s, like a $20,000 car that they're already making front end gross on. So let's say they're making, 10-20% on it, $3,000-4,000. And they're adding $6,000 in just garbage.
Oh.
I'm like, how do you sleep at night? Holy cow.
And how are people putting up with that, too?
Every car gets a protection package.
Yeah.
It's protecting you from too much money being in your wallet.
It must be.
Like,
Yeah. Ceramic coating just bounces
Holy
the money
cow.
right off.
Yep.
Of your
I mean, maybe there's a warranty in there and stuff like that, but golly.
anytime-
Mandatory.
Yeah. A mandatory
It's
protection.
crazy.
That's wild.
Like, a lot of new car dealers did this, especially during the pandemic, in lieu of ADMs, right? They're like, well, we're not charging over sticker, but you have to buy $6,000 of this stuff, right? And that was like, that's reasonable. But on a used car, like, holy cow. I think Carvana wants the notes of this dealership. How do we do that?
How do we make money?
I think Carvana's stock is up, by the way. I'm sorry to report. I've not changed my position. The last we talked about it, they were at like $7 a share. They're up to $24 a share. So I'm 400% wrong so far. But I'm still standing by that they cannot service the amount of debt they have, and it's eventually going to sink them. And there's still multiple states in which they are struggling to maintain their dealer license because of a lack of scrupulity.
Should have put my life
Scrupulity.
savings into Carvana 6 months ago.
Yeah, right.
Well, honestly, there's a whole bunch of people making tons of money shorting it, so that might not be the worst thing to do now at $25 a share.
It's never good.
You know, I kind of missed our roast Carvana section. It's been a while since you've done that.
been a
so-
minute.
Well, because I'm kind of wrong. Well, I'm not wrong. I give it time.
Should everyone
Give it
watching
time.
short Carvana
It's yes.
just hop on Robinhood and
I don't even know how to do that stuff. I invest for the long term, but a few people said it's the dead cat bounce. So
yeah.
listen, Toys R Us went bankrupt when they were profitable because they couldn't service the debt. Carvana still stinking isn't profitable. They're just cutting expenses. And so people are like, oh, yeah, they're making the right moves. Their stock's going up. We got confidence.
I tried doing the short-term thing with Carvana once. I bought a bunch of this was probably like 6 months ago or longer. I bought a bunch of calls, which is essentially now puts and calls it's a super easy way to lose a bunch of money really quick.
Switchcast does not recommend any
No.
investment
This is
advice.
not
It's not
financial-
investment
This
advice.
is not investment advice at all by any means. But essentially, you're saying like that a stock's going to go up or down by a certain amount, but then you also have to predict like when it's going to happen, and you have to be like dead on with everything, and you can't
Right.
just be like, oh, it's going to go down like $1 or $2. Like you
Correct.
have to make a crazy guess.
Right.
So yeah,
Very, very risky.
it's
Same thing with
incredibly
futures.
risky.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
So,
why I don't do that stuff.
yeah, but a lot of
Yes.
people made a lot of money doing that with GameStop. But maybe Carvana is going to be a similar.
GameStop
Although
and
maybe if
AMC
you just
were-
if you
Bed Bath and
forecast
Beyond
far
or
enough
something.
out, then maybe you can like
For
kinda
sure, but
guarantee
that's not what these Wall Street bets. What do they call themselves? Degenerates. That's not what they're doing. It's a like
wonder if they
these
went-
guys have. They're man. That's a ballsy thing that these guys are doing out there.
All right. Well, the appraiser is back, and it's taking a new form tonight. Tyler and I are going to do a little challenge. So we've picked auction results from random places, and we're going to guess. Can you throw me a pen, Ethan, or something, so I can make a note here? That's your question flag pen. But
We'll be okay.
Well,
Anyway.
you're peeling back the curtain, Doug. Don't do that.
Yeah. What? What's a question flag pen?
We are perfectly synchronized here at all times.
Absolutely.
We have a monitor back here that lights up when we have questions in the chat.
And it blinks when they're paid questions.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
There's actually a mini rave that happens when there's a paid question that comes in. We get real excited.
Yeah, but you won't
The
see
whole
it, so
audience
that's it.
does a wave. Synchronized. Let's see it, Dan.
Our whole audience, Dan. Yeah. No one in the audience did it.
The appraiser, right? So we're picking random cars from across the internet, and Tyler and we each picked different cars, and hopefully we haven't actually seen the results. This is not planned in advance. This is not scripted. This is off the cuff guessing, and each of us is going to give basic details on the car, and then we have to guess what it sold for, and the person who is closest on a percentage basis wins. And we're also going to start this on a weekly basis. So we're going to pick one to watch for next week, and we're going to predict the price and see how close we are. I see people predicting prices all the time in the comment flow of auctions, and I think that's kind of bad form to do it in the auctions, because it's just like that's totally irrelevant unless you're bidding or have relevant information to discuss. Just guessing on the price is kind of dumb, but other places to do it is great. It's off-track betting, right? Yeah. So we may start this. If you guys want to participate, you can also put your predictions in as well, and we may have some prizes available once we get this going. So to start it off, Tyler, fire away. What is my car?
All right, so your car, now this is a completed auction. We wanted to get something rolling. This is a 2001 Audi S4 Avant. It's so cool. Located in the U.S.
5, so that's a turbo.
Maybe.
Turbo
Do you want the
5
answer?
cylinder, right?
No.
No.
I think these had. Oh gosh. Oh goodness.
Okay.
No, they had the V6.
Oh, that was so it's a B4 Avant, right?
I do not have a ton of Audi knowledge.
Okay, fine.
Moving
it's a
on.
2001 Audi S4 Avant. Is it a stick shift or an
Yeah.
automatic?
It's a manual transmission.
6-speed. What color?
Imola yellow.
I was gonna ask if it was yellow. Yes.
It's got the
Does it have
two-tone Onyx
more
interior.
or less than 150,000 miles?
It has more than 150,000 miles.
Yup.
Somebody's enjoyed that.
Is it stanced?
It is not.
Okay. How many more than 150K miles does it have?
It has 184,000.
Good Carfax, maintenance records.
So it's got clean title, clean Carfax. Seems to come with a bunch of service records. It has a Unitronic Stage 1 tune. I have no idea what that means. Is it an air filter? Is it? I don't know. But yeah, there's a bunch of service records with it. So it was well cared for.
Okay. Did it sell on Cars and Bids?
It did.
Ah,
No, do you know this car?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm just like, I guessed the car and I guessed the market place. Okay, I'm gonna read you your car, and then we're gonna do the numbers and see how close we are. I've got my sale number down here.
I did spoil this for myself. I mean, I'm staring at the listing, so I know how much mine sold for.
Well, you the one you picked. Yes, I'm gonna read you yours. Okay. We both picked wagons. 2013 Mercedes E63 AMG. That's the bi-turbo 5.5 liter V8. And it's the 2013, so it's a rare rear-wheel drive wagon. Has 100,000 miles, clean Carfax, but some minor paintwork. It is steel gray over almond, and the Pano sunroof is a glass viewing panel because it doesn't work currently.
I'm sure you don't need to open it anyway.
Right. Had $100,000 MSRP originally.
Ooh.
So 2013 E63 rear-wheel drive wagon, 100,000 miles, clean Carfax, some paintwork,
Any?
in-op pano sunroof.
Okay. I know I'm going to embarrass myself.
Okay.
So this is going to be Tyler learning how to guess the car market for the next few weeks here. 'Cause
All right.
I don't know these very
Do you
well.
want to think about it for a minute?
I'm
gonna give you my number. Okay, so on the S4 Avant, I'm guessing 184,000 miles, but yellow. I'm going back and forth on this over $1,000, but maybe I'll split the difference. I'm gonna say 13,000.
It was close.
Yeah,
It went for 12.
not bad.
Real close.
The first number I wrote down was 12.5, and that's not including that's the hammer price, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm 1,000 off. All right. All right. So what do you think on the E63 wagon?
I'm gonna guess 45K. Is that like way
I
off?
win.
Well, yeah.
I
Like,
win.
how far off is that?
Oh man, it sold for $30,000.
Oh.
30
I was gonna guess
grand.
35, and I was like, well, it's an AMG. It's probably worth more.
Ah, the AMGs have really come back.
Really?
They have really come back. Yep.
Yep. This is just me embarrassing myself.
Yep.
So is this going to be a thing where you guys like keep a running like tally week after week of how much you're off by? Then by like the end of
Ooh.
the season, you'll have like
Yes.
I do kind of think, now we can chat, we'll figure this out offline, but like I kind of think reward or even like a punishment. Like we do this for a certain amount of time and the loser has to do a shot of Malort.
Malort.
Yeah.
Okay, so you
Or
got
something like that.
45,000. It sold for 30.2. All right, Ethan, you gotta do a spreadsheet or something.
Doug's
Okay,
taking a
next
massive
week.
lead here.
Next week. All right, this is gonna give you a chance to see what you know about the wagon or prove your knowledge of options and how they play into the market, because this is an important thing for buyers and sellers to understand, right? So we're going to do another Mercedes E63 wagon. It's a 2012, also rare rear-wheel drive. Black over almond. It has the P30 performance package, which is essentially a tune, but it gives it like 100 extra foot-pounds of torque and I think 50 extra horsepower. Ceramic brakes, super rare option. Also limited slip differential. It's probably a one of one as produced option. It's a Corvette rare. 94,000 miles, clean Carfax. It has a $124,000 MSRP. So for reference, the other one had $100K MSRP. This one had $124,000 MSRP.
Okay.
Similar mileage, but crazy options and also better photos on the listing. So we're going to find out how much having options helps the resale. So the other one sold for 30.2. What do you think this one's going to sell for?
I'm
Ends
going to
in
guess
4 days.
37 and a half.
37 and a half. Okay. All right. I think you're wrong, but okay.
Where do you? Well, I probably am. Like
All
I will
right.
learn. Just give me a few
We'll find
weeks.
out next week. Find out. Okay. If any of you guys want to watch that one, that is on Bring a Trailer, so you can see how off Tyler's going to be at the end.
It's gonna be embarrassing. I need to drink myself to.
It's got ceramic brakes, bro.
Yeah, but how important is that on a like? It's cool, but the
I
LSD
would
is
buy
more
one.
impressive.
Okay, what's mine?
So this is going to be easy for you, but I wanted yellow Germans. That's really just kind of it
That
worked.
sounds really like. That sounds
Sorry,
really bad.
We're gonna move on from that.
German cars.
German cars. So this is a 19,000 mile 2003 996 GT2 that is on P-Car Market.
Yep, I saw that one in speed yellow.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I don't have my numbers handy. How many of them were made in speed yellow? Okay, 19K mile. Oh shoot, I've been way off on the 996 GT2 market lately.
It's got the black interior with carbon package.
Okay.
It was Carfax title's clean. Carfax has an accident on it.
Ooh.
Damage to left side. There was details
it's
about the
gonna kill it.
accident in the
That's
listing.
gonna kill it.
Do you want the details of the accident?
No,
Okay.
it doesn't matter. That's gonna
Carfax
kill the
only says
collectors.
damage to left side.
Okay.
In 2009, I'll tell you that.
All right.
It was featured
Any
at
modifications?
No, it seems so. It's had like a bunch of refurbishment and maintenance.
Okay.
Tons of like gobs of records.
Okay.
It was featured at Monterey Car Week in 2019,
Means
and
nothing.
Porsche used it in some commercial like around the same time.
Ooh.
So it was at Willow Springs.
Oh, man, this is tough. These 996 GT2s have been all over the board lately, and there's a number of them that have not sold and aren't sold. Oh, man, you're killing me here. I'm going to say this. I'm going to make a bold prediction. One, that it's going to go reserve, not met. Two,
This looks so cool. I'd drive the bejesus out of this.
I'm going to say 170.
That is pretty high, but I guess that's kind of around. I know nothing, as I've shown so far
I know
tonight.
nothing. Okay.
I do feel like the accident really hurts that.
It does. Okay. Let's see what happens. All right. That's on P-Car Market. So, guys, if you want to participate in our betting and see what happens next week,
Send some Malort in my
Yeah.
future.
see how we do. Okay. On to the question of the week. And if you guys got questions, get them in quickly here. We're wrapping up towards the end of the show.
All right, and the question of the week is brought to you by Nuts for Sticks. Nuts for Sticks is a brand celebrating the manual transmission in all of its forms. Forget those flappy paddles because we like shifting ourselves. Check out our fun and funny stick-themed shirts at nutsforsticks.com and save 10% on your order using the discount code SWITCHCAST. That is nutsforsticks.com and use code SWITCHCAST. So our question of the week this week comes from Jim Ryder. He asks, what is your take on the hands-free app on newer cars and trucks? For me, I feel that anything that takes you away from driving the car truck is not helpful, but potentially harmful, sort of like texting while driving. I am a firm believer of both hands on the wheel at all times and eyes on the road, always. And then some slander. By the way, load up a bit larger applause track at the end of the show. Well, that is authentic.
Right.
Jim.
The applause
That is-
track is directly
It is
related
real.
to how many people are clapping in the room.
This is only an
We have
authentic
not
show.
stooped to using tracks.
Jim is a good guy.
Yes.
Shout out to Jim.
Jim
Jim's
is a
great guy.
regular listener and a customer of Switch Cars. He is posting every week, and this is a really good question. Now, there's two things. I'm not quite sure which one he's asking about. There's like the hands-free in terms of using your cell phone, and then there's like the hands-free in terms of not driving, right? Like the hands-off. Maybe he can clarify it if he's in the chat. I've got opinions on both of them. The hands-free, like Bluetooth, use your phone without using it, I think is awesome because let's be honest, we take phone calls, we get phone calls, we make phone calls, and being able to just like keep your eyes on the road and do that without taking your eyes off the road is fantastic. Now there are three types of distractions. There's the visual, the physical, and the mental. And technically, to be truly focused on driving, you shouldn't have any of those distractions. But the worst one is visual. The second worst one is physical. The third one is mental. Like you're always going to have sounds and stuff like that around. So if you can take the visual and the physical away in terms of not having your phone in your hand and limit it just to the mental distraction of talking, I think that's a great improvement. Separately but related, Ohio finally passed a law making using your phone in your car illegal. Like having a phone in your car, like it's very nuanced. You're allowed to swipe once, so like if you answer a phone call or are holding it up, you're allowed to actually talk on the phone, but anything more than a single swipe is illegal. Now, I don't know how the cops are going to friggin' know that.
Yeah,
All they
what?
do is it's silly because they're not going to enforce it, right? All they're going to do is point the radar at you and pull you over if you're speeding. They're going to continue to arrest people for speeding and pull people over for speeding and friggin' ticket us all and raise revenue when the phones are the real problem. I literally almost died on the way here because some punk in a BMW came way over center line and put me off into the shoulder and just wasn't, anyway, and that happens daily almost. But from that perspective, I like it. From the other perspective, maybe he was asking about the hands-off driving, the autonomous stuff. I am firmly opposed to it because I think that it trains people to not be paying attention, to not be good drivers. And we were just discussing this today with somebody who has a teenage driver, and their Mercedes has all this stuff, the adaptive cruise control, the lane assist. Like, you can literally just drive and not do anything. And she's like, this is terrible because my daughter is learning, like, she's not learning how to react to situations. And I found that even if I'm using cruise control, if I have to brake, I have like a second delay because the muscle memory isn't there to go from the gas pedal to the brake. I'm checked out just enough mentally that it's like, oh, shoot, I have to brake, and there's a delayed reaction time. So I think these things that help us drive ourselves are actually taking away from our driving skill, and I think long term they're dangerous because we continue to rely on them. And if you want more opinion on that, go read Matthew Crawford's book, Why We Drive. It's awesome. He ties our engagement in driving and our skill in driving to our mental health, to our level of skill and happiness and enjoyment in life. It's really amazing. It's a great book, one of the best I've ever read. But on that note, somebody tweeted this week that they had just completed a West Hollywood to San Francisco zero takeover drive. Like, they never had to correct the autonomous thing.
Wow.
And somebody was like, oh, well, did it park itself? That would be impressive. And they said, well, no, actually it did, one of the charging stops, it pulled in and out of the parking lot by itself. I was like, one of the charging stops? It's like 340 miles. How many times did you have to stop to charge in 340 miles? My Corvette could make it on one tank.
But you're not going to drive it that far.
Like, a diesel Golf could go out and back nonstop. Oh. As could a hypermiling Prius. But anyway, somebody was like, oh, let's see you do it, LA to New York City. And Elon Musk tweeted that, like, soon or whatever, like, he's going to do it. So apparently Elon's going to try a autonomous drive from LA to New York City, which
it'll happen when the Cybertruck comes out.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure that tweet made Dogecoin go nuts.
Hey, Ethan, that's exactly my response. How about that?
How about that? I was talking to someone the other day who, this isn't like autonomous driving, but they were saying, like, oh man, if I, when it's raining out, or if it's snowing, or if there's ice covering my my rear view camera, like I can't even like put my car in reverse if I can't see it. And I was like, what?
That's exactly it.
Which is exactly what you're saying.
We become dependent on these things to do them for us, then we can't do it. It's like your mom doing your laundry. If she does it through college, then you don't know how to wash your dang clothes.
That's right.
So, yeah, we're going to have a bunch of adults in 10 years that can't back a car up.
That was
technology fails.
That's a more extreme example, but I know for a fact that person is not the only person who feels that way. I mean, kids are learning how to drive when they're in high school or even before in some instances on these vehicles, and they're being taught by their parents, like, yeah, you just look at the rear view camera. That's it. You don't need to worry about your mirrors. Doesn't matter.
It's
crazy.
And I talked to somebody else too that said, like, well, I want to buy my kid a big safe vehicle with all the stuff to keep them safe. And I was like, the best thing you can do to keep them safe is send them to an advanced driving school to make them a good driver. Their safety is in their hands, not in the cage you put around them.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
All right. Mic drop there. We got to get to props and flops. We have run out of time. Thank you for sticking with us. Again, stick around for Tip Talk afterwards for your live questions. And go for it, Tyler.
And Props and Flops is brought to you by Switch Cars. Switch Cars is the enthusiasts dealership where we buy, sell, consign, service, and store only cars that we like ourselves. So go check out our handpicked inventory at switchcars.com. And our pick of the week, by none other than producer Ethan, from Switch Cars inventory is
2022 Shelby GT500 with only 1,000 miles in eruption green.
Oh, the green is so
good. If you Freudian slip that word, it's also accurate.
Yeah, seriously.
Anyway, that's
sitting here with
on our
legs the whole
site. It's
time.
actually sale pending, but it is such a great color, so check it out. Flop of the week. So there was a car crashes into a school bus. A bunch of like teenagers stole a car and were hanging out the window and crashed it into a school bus. And one of the people who was hanging out, the video is pretty graphic. It was kind of awful, but like hit the school bus, and then you like see them just like flopping out the window. But the other 5 kids in the car just took off running after the car crashed. But so, I mean, the whole thing is awful. And there's a real systemic issue in our society if kids are doing this. But the second flop was in this article on Fox 6 Now. Community activist Tracy Dent said, despite the crash, that reckless driving is declining citywide. She believes that some of the city's efforts, like speed bumps and a towing initiative, are starting to work, but there is more to be done.
How is a towing initiative working against reckless driving? You're parked when you're towed.
Listen. Reckless. This was the problem here was not reckless driving. It started way before that. The kids stole a car.
Yeah,
the problem here is parenting. Right? Like, this is speed bumps. Speed bumps. Yeah, let's fix the crime problem. Let's put speed bumps in. What the hell is a community activist anyway?
Also, what kind of response to that news story is that? Like, that was
right.
That's insane.
We know this
like
terrible
critical condition. Yeah. He's in a coma.
Like, yeah. That's terrible. But let's talk about how great we're doing.
We're doing pretty great.
Yeah,
Go us.
Our community activist group is just we're killing it because they are killing it. Yeah.
Good heavens.
Ooh. Yeah. Let's put more speed bumps in so the kids that are reckless driving can try to get air off of them. I mean, that's what I would do if I was 16 and didn't have parents around. Golly.
When I was in high school, no one wanted to go over speed bumps because it would, like, if you had a CD in your car, it would be like. So no one wanted to do that because it would scratch your CD.
When I was in high school, we still used the adapters that took the CD-ROM with the cable, put the cassette in. Okay, there's way more to be said on that topic. We're going to leave that alone in the interest of time. The prop of the week. Wait for it, guys. You will not believe this.
I'm waiting. I'm buckled.
It is an EV.
I don't believe you.
Good thing I'm sitting down.
Did Doug leave?
Are you gobsmacked?
I am. Yeah, flabbergasted.
Was that on your word of the day toilet paper this morning, Doug?
Okay. Callum Designs teams up with Niobolt. This is courtesy of Goodwood.com. Niobolt to create an all-electric sports car collaboration. The designer Julian Thompson, who designed the original Lotus Elise, drew this car up as like a new modern version of the Elise, which it is friggin' gorgeous, and that is why it gets the prop of the week. Now, they have all sorts of amazing technology in that, it's a lightweight battery. The car is supposed to come in at only 2,000 pounds, which I'll believe it when I see it. It's supposed to charge in only 6 minutes. All this different stuff. It only has a 155-mile range, so there's a downside there. But, it's a sports car. It's not supposed to be practical. However, I'll preface all this by saying this is a concept car. They claim to have tested all these things, but there's been lots of claims by lots of people, including Tesla, that have not come to fruition. So we'll see if once it comes out, it actually works. If it doesn't, I am so game to friggin' LS swap this thing because it looks awesome.
God, this looks amazing.
Yes, it does. Oh. What I find kind of interesting too, right? So the Lotus Elise came out in the 90s. The Lotus Elise was the basis for the first Tesla, right? It was a Tesla Roadster. It was based on an Elise chassis. It was also the basis for the Hennessy Venom GT. They used a stretched Lotus Elise chassis. So the Lotus Elise has carried its legacy on in all these different forms, which I think is really neat. It really was a groundbreaking sports car, and it is continuing to be. So anyway, watch this Callum Designs thing. We'll see where it goes. And even if it goes nowhere, it is a beautiful, beautiful concept. So Anyway, that wraps it up for this evening. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you to my producer, Ethan Huffnagel, and my partner in crime here, Tyler Sanders. Thank you to our sponsors, Boxcast, Nuts for Sticks, Switch Cars, Celebrity Machines, Parallel Printworks, and Stephen Holm Woodworking. Our bumper music is provided by Emily and Ivory. You can stream their full album on Spotify or SoundCloud. This episode will be available next Monday in audio format wherever you listen to podcasts. Head over to switchcast.live to download those audio podcasts. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next Wednesday at 8 p.m. as we look forward to edifying, educating, and entertaining you on the drive of your life. Cue that applause track.
Jim, if you're listening, you
That was
feel free to send me an
claps,
audio
Jim.
track of some applause, Jim, and we'll throw it in here, because I know you got that somewhere.
Great. Well, if you're still here and you got some questions here, we've moved on to the Tip Talk section, bonus round for live viewers only. If you want to move your question to the top of the queue, throw us a tip. Not like a piece of advice, but, like a piece of paper that has presidents printed on it or whatever electronic version of that you do, stars or whatnot, Bitcoin. Yeah, great. So what do we got here?
TikTok has been pretty fun to follow here.
Okay.
We talked a good deal about Corvettes. Do we want to keep it consistent with that theme and hit on some Corvette questions here?
Sure, why not?
Do
I need the hat?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
or-
does he need to?
No.
Does Doug need to step
I don't
out for a
think
second?
so.
Well, Corvette Curmudgeon's in bed, so
Yeah, it's way
that's
past.
why
true.
we do a
No,
segment
yeah.
early in the night.
Exactly. So this one maybe will be pretty straightforward. Chris North says, I ran into a guy who said he canceled his C8 order because it wasn't a manual. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, we knew it. How long ago?
I feel like that's a known thing, though, isn't
we
it?
knew for a long time it wasn't going to be a manual, unless he got on the list in like 2015.
Yeah.
I probably would have too, right? Like if once they announced it, I totally would have. I don't want a car that's not a manual at this point in my life, other than like my wife's daily driver. I think it's really, really good car for not being a manual, but yeah, I totally wouldn't have. I totally would have done the same thing. Well, no, I wouldn't have. I would have bought it for sticker and then flipped it for 20 over.
Yeah.
That's what I would have done.
This one's
An ethical sale
yeah.
and enthusiastic.
So this is a question. Raymond Reddington.
I would hope it is, Ethan.
Greetings from Greece.
Hi.
Yes,
the land
that-
of cheap cars. Myron Vernus says hello.
He says, "What's the deal with Americans and their one-off Corvettes?" Now, I feel like this is a stereotype that we've played up on the show so much, but we've never really talked about where it originates.
Have
or
you
why
been
it's a
to
thing.
American car shows or cruise-ins rather? Well, it's not just Corvettes. I think I don't know why, but well, I do know. We're going to go into a existential rabbit trail here. I think everybody wants to be special, and I don't know if it's just that, like, I don't know where it comes from, but everybody has exaggerated sense of pride in what they have, and they can't enjoy it for what it is. So their enjoyment is derived, like it's only validated when other people find it significant. They can't just be like, hey, I love my car for what it is. I enjoy driving it. I enjoy looking at it. It's like, I got to take it to a show. Somebody has to give me a trophy. Somebody else has to validate it. And part of that validation is that mine is better than yours. And to like extrapolate that out, as much as the boomer generation complains about snowflakes, I feel like the Corvette curmudgeon mentality is to blame for the snowflakes, because the participation trophy of today is the my Corvette is special and I deserve a Corvette class trophy at the car show of yesterday, right? Like that mentality got handed down. And they might have had a better work ethic or gone to war or whatever makes them like better people, but that mentality of I'm special and I deserve an award just because they said, well, my Corvette is the only one with this color calipers and wheels and this leather option, yada, yada, yada. Like that's exactly what the kids are doing now that we all rail against. And like, I don't agree with it either, right? You win because you're better, not because you decided that your car was more special. So I don't know. I think it's just a human problem.
Well, because I see it in all types of car people. Porsche people are the exact
Porsche's
same
up
way.
there, yeah.
Mustang people, the exact same way. Like
Right.
they all just kind of want to feel special.
Sure. And now social media, like, okay, well, it's not that my car's rare, but my car has 1,000 followers on social media. You know, you tag my car or whatever. It's taking new forms. But I think the Corvette people exaggerate the stereotype the worst because there's just so many of them that emulate that mentality.
And there's also just so many Corvette owners too.
True.
They load up every show. And they're like, oh, look how special this one
thousands
is.
of rare special Corvettes. Yeah. Yep. For sure.
What's the dumbest reason that you have heard for someone claiming like, oh yeah, this Corvette, like if one comes to you, I'm curious if you've heard like the dumbest stat.
I actually have a follow-up that I think I know the answer to, Wally, but
all
it's a good
season.
question.
I didn't hear this personally, but I saw it posted, and it was like a Dodge Challenger Scat Pack something or other, and they had the delineation of the options down to it's one of one, and the last option that made it one of one was it was ordered with all season tires.
It was ordered with all season. It's a good one.
So at what point on listing out a car's options do you stop and say that it becomes ridiculous after this point?
In order to find it rare, or like when I'm just saying what a car has, like when I'm selling it?
Just to, yeah, I would say to make it rare, like where do you stop in listing out options?
I did a blog on this a while back, and it was like how many degrees does it take? It's a one of one, one of X of X. Like how many times do you have to, do you have the parentheses, a one of something, right? So I feel like 3 or 4 is like the max, right? That you could say it's one of this, of this, of this, of this. And it also depends what that third number is, right? So like a GT3 RS, if it's like one of one in this color of, 300 produced in this year of 500 produced for North America total. It's like, okay, that's a really low third number. But if you have a Corvette, it's like, my Corvette, for example, right? It's one of 300 some odd in Carmine Red for 1998 of like 20,000 in 98 of like 200,000 Corvette C5s, right? So that third number is giant. So like, it's just not rare, period.
Does the same thing apply for Cannonball? Because there's a gentleman who we all know who is known for putting qualifiers on cannonballs, and it gets it like the same thing you're saying.
You
here
get
with
one
cars.
qualifier.
Yeah, with a cannonball. Yeah.
One qualifier.
Right.
And even then, it's all made up. Which, some of it is legit, right? Like Solo, that is legit. Motorcycle is legit. Like, stuff like that, that's all legit. But when you start doing like, okay, well, it's this number of people in a car and, we did it on a Tuesday that it wasn't raining. Like,
we started at the Red Ball before 10:30 at night.
Right, right.
The barometric pressure outside was...
No, I think once you get past one qualifier, one descriptive element of what you did, I think then it's like, okay, you're just trying to
you drove
make a
from
record,
New York
right.
to LA. Yeah,
Right.
good job.
Like Sean has the diesel record, not the diesel Volkswagen 3-person record, right? He's got the diesel record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got Pero in YouTube chat saying you got Volkswagen Golf guys and their stages too. I do feel like golf owners with stages is kind of like that. Like, oh, stage 2 tuned. I'm like, what does that even mean? There's no governing body of Volkswagen Golfs. So, Gear Guy 2001 had a good question that came up after we did our little appraiser thing that
Yeah.
said, would the ceramic brakes be a negative because they're so expensive to replace?
No. Often they are perceived as such, not just in AMGs, but other cars too. But you have to look at how long they last. Because if you don't track the car or cannonball it, like if you don't put excessive heat in it, they, in theory, last 100,000 miles or more. I've seen, I think I saw a car with like 150,000 miles on it or something on stock rotors. I don't know. But yeah, if you don't abuse them, they'll last way, way longer than steel brakes. So, I mean, yes, you have to consider it as an eventual cost, but
I guess you could also just replace them with steel brakes
Yep.
if you didn't want to pay
you
for
can
it.
also do that.
Keeping with, because Ethan mentioned Cannonball, Jeremiah Johnson asked, what's your favorite Cannonball tire?
That's a good question. It's the one I've never used. We've used Michelin Pilot all seasons, which were good, and we went in mid-November, so it was important to have that kind of all-season performance tire. We used Continental Extreme DWSs, and we went in May, and that was the worst tire possible for that. But we didn't have a choice because COVID put such constraints on everything. I mean, it was in May of 2020. Trying to order stuff was ridiculous. Michelin Pilot 4S, I think, is the all-around best tire, bar none, for Cannonball, for even light track use, whatever. I mean, full track car, you do a Cup 2. But, like, if I was going to run a Cannonball that didn't have a threat of, like, sub 40-degree temperatures, I'd do the Michelin Pilot 4S. So good.
Gage on TikTok, first person to drop a comment. Thank you, Gage. Thoughts on the Subaru Brat, which I believe stands for something.
Brat? No, it's the Subaru Brat.
What's it stand for?
Nothing.
No, it's.
Did
Have
he
you
do
never
it in
seen
all
a
caps?
Brat?
It does stand for
It
something?
stands for something.
I thought it was just the
right?
model. It's that four-door
Dan.
S little sport utility thing.
Dan, what's it stand for?
It's like, it does stand for something.
Thank you.
I took out a couple letters, but it's like buy something all-terrain.
Chat, what's it stand for?
I've,
Chat.
I've got it up on the YouTubes, or on the YouTubes, the Googles if
What are
we're
you
ready
talking
for it.
about?
Same company.
I don't know. They were very popular in Maine, I can tell you that much.
It stands for Bi-Drive Recreational All-Terrain Transporter.
Oh, all-terrain is one.
Yes.
Yeah,
One.
that's-
All
they
dash
dropped,
terrain.
They dropped a few.
It
yeah.
should be BRATT.
Anyway,
Because it's the legacy Outback just with the wagon part cut off, right?
it's older.
I thought they remade it. The Baja, that's right. I'm thinking of the newer one. Yeah, I know. Now I know what you're talking about. The old school one. That was a two-door, right? The Brat was a two-door? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's an ugly car.
There's the
Back when you
thoughts.
could hurt yourself if you wanted
Subaru El Camino.
He
Yeah, it kind of is.
Gage also asks, or should I autocross with my Coupe RT1 or build it to be a show car?
Coupe RT1?
That's what we got here. Yeah,
Like Subaru RT1?
it's totally possible.
I don't know what a Coupe RT1 is.
Sorry, that got translated wrong.
R1.
Apologies, Gage. No.
Ethan,
Or
you
should I
should not.
autocross
You should
with
not.
my Neon Coupe RT?
Neon
Coupe
RT.
RT.
Thank you. Okay. I was thinking it was a Mopar thing with the RT. I just never heard of
Sorry,
RT1.
Gage, if you're watching still.
Okay.
Should he build that to be a show car or should he autocross?
Friggin' autocross it.
There you go.
The Neon ACR is one of the most fun cars I've driven. I haven't driven one in 20 years, but Bradley Brownell, curator of the Crawford Auto Museum and automotive enthusiast extraordinaire, has one, and he loves it. But no, I put a little suspension on that Neon. Those things are they're a hoss. They're fun. That'll get around an autocross track really quickly.
They're a hoss.
Just do me a favor, put an SRT4 badge on it for me.
Yeah.
Multiple, lots
Um,
of them.
Here's
and
a
then tell people that it's not a Neon, it's an SRT4.
here's a practical question.
We don't take those here, Ethan.
Keeping in the Subaru line of thought here. Ryan D, I have a 2023 Subaru Crosstrek 2.5. What's your recommendation for getting more power out of it?
A Subaru Crosstrek. What year?
23.
Get rid of the CVT.
There you go, Ryan D.
Yeah, like, and I would say a tune would be the only other thing, but do they even offer tunes
Yeah,
for
I don't
Crosstreks?
know.
Is it the same motor that's in the
That
Impreza?
is a CVT, in right? Aren't they all?
I think all the Crosstreks are CVTs.
Yeah.
Like I said,
More
practical
power out of it.
question.
I think if you sold it and bought a Porsche,
There you go. There you go.
This is the
That's,
place where you come for practical car advice.
like very
CVTs
practical
are
question.
CVTs are not great for what CVTs and power do not. They don't go together.
Well, speaking of that, Jacob Suave says Suave. Not really speaking of CVTs, but is a G35 a good first car?
Heck yeah, I like those a lot.
Someone else said, I forget who it was, but I vaguely remember someone responded to him almost immediately in the chat and said, yes, if you only have 4K and like trumpets, I think was what the response was.
Trumpets.
It's probably, I'm guessing it's
there
like an
a
exhaust
millennial
note thing.
joke there?
Yeah, I don't.
They sound good though. I mean, don't put a stupid exhaust on it, but it's the same block as a 350Z and basically the same block as a GTR. They all have the same fundamental noise, and you can make them sound pretty dang good. And they're reasonably reliable and fun, especially a rear-wheel drive one. Yeah, they're good interiors. Go for it.
Lucas T just dropped a tip. So
Hey,
and he
let's
dropped a
go.
question
It's Tip
here.
Talk.
That's right. Tip
Shout
talk.
out to Lucas.
We need like an air
Um,
horn.
He asks, what are the best car names y'all have ever heard?
Like manufacturer name or just like I named my car Sally?
Lucas, clarify this question for us,
Please clarify.
please.
My Corvette is Gretchen too, and there's a long story behind that one if you want to hear it.
Do you actually name your cars?
I do.
Gretchen 2 is actually your
I
your
believe
C5?
firmly that all cars are female, and you should only name a car if there's a story behind it. You can't just like, I christened the Jacqueline. There has to be a story behind it. And if a car comes with a name when you buy it, you have to keep it. All right, so my Lincoln Aviator I bought from an elderly man in Bracknell, and I didn't think I was going to get it from him because he asked me if I was going to like drive it in the snow, and I said yes, and he almost like took the keys away from me because it was this pristine, low-mile, just gem of a Lincoln Aviator. And when he handed over the keys, he said, "Take good care of Betsy." I was like, well, it's Betsy forever then. I can't change the name.
That's like a dog.
No, you can change dogs' names.
Can you?
Oh, for sure.
I like this part of Tip Talk where we figure out Doug's boundaries in life. I think this is interesting.
Did
You
you
can change
change-
car names, but
Well,
not dog
dogs
names.
come with some really stupid names because there's bad dog owners.
I'm pretty sure cars can come with stupid names too.
Yeah. I have a family member
Yes.
who named their cat Princess Peaches.
Right, you
And
going to keep that name?
That's right. You know, I was wondering about that.
I'd change it to, like, Schnapps.
Yeah,
just
like
as a
Toby or something
a
like that.
token to the
Todd.
previous name. Schnapps.
Schnapps. Like Peach Schnapps.
Exactly, right? So it's like an ode to the previous name. but-
Prince Schnapps. Okay.
Did he ever clarify what he was asking?
Yeah.
Like manufacturer
Well,
names
he,
or
he didn't, but he kind of did. He said, I named my car. So I'm assuming he's talking about names.
Right.
Yeah,
So
okay.
what's the strangest, most
I don't
bizarre
actually
name?
have names for any of my cars.
Well,
There
the-
is
the
nothing
quest-
that
the
has stood
question-
out to me.
The question was, what's the strangest name that you've heard of somebody
I don't have
else's?
a lot of friends that name cars.
You don't hang out with car namers?
No, not really.
Doug? Doug does.
It's a really weird thing because I don't like. It's not something that registers. I did have a client. This was a little bit strange. I had a client in Florida who passed away probably a decade ago, and he had a pretty good collection, and he had a website for his collection, and it was like even 15 years ago, it was outdated. It was like Angel Fire quality website. And he had a name for every single one of his cars and a page for every car. And he was like the best enthusiast ever. He was in a wheelchair, like he could only buy automatic cars, but he would rent out the local racetrack and go with his friends, and like he was just super generous, loved cars, and but it was just kind of humorous because the links on the page were based on the name of the car, right? So you click on a female name and go to the page for the car.
Yeah.
So that was probably, I mean, he had all sorts of names there.
Pretty good.
I don't remember all of them. I wonder if the website's still up. If somebody kept, like, if you put it on perpetual renewal.
I wonder if he had like a chalkboard like from Gone in 60 Seconds with all the car like girl names with the like whatever.
No,
Doggone
website's
it.
gone.
Man.
Anyway, that's how I got the name Gretchen.
Can you use the Wayback
Yeah, it's
machine?
probably on the Wayback machine.
Yeah, I bet you could.
We'll have to look that up.
Here we
We'll
go.
do that
we'll have
next
this
week.
next week. If it's
Okay.
a thing, we'll find it.
Okay, make a note of that,
That's
Ethan.
fantastic.
All right, good question. Sorry I couldn't. I didn't have a good answer, but I had a good story.
Let's
Gretchen's name, since he gave me a tip. We'll do this and then one more question.
Yep.
The reason Corvette was named Gretchen was related to my childhood, in that when I was in gymnastics, I was in love with my sister's older friend. She was probably like 5 years older than me. I don't know. And her name was Gretchen. And I was convinced when I was like 6 years old that I was going to marry Gretchen and I was going to be the king of car sales. And I was going to sit in my like ivory tower eating popcorn, and Gretchen would stand down the street with a sign pointing people to my car dealership. I was misogynistic from a young age. And yeah, and so I was going to marry Gretchen, and that was how I was going to, make my fortune or whatever. And so like I had bought my first Corvette, I hadn't named it, and somebody asked me like what I'd name my car or something, and like I didn't know, but I started telling them the story about how I got in, or like relating car sales to this story, and they're like, well, your car should be named Gretchen then. I was like, yep, I guess so.
Sold.
But then John Handel, this guy who died but who had the website with all of his car names, he had a Gretchen 1 and a Gretchen 2. I think they were Mercedes SL55s. And so he bought a newer one, and that was Gretchen 2. So when I sold Gretchen and I bought a different Corvette to replace it, I'm like, well, it has to be Gretchen 2 because it was an ode to my client who passed away. So it was Gretchen 1 and Gretchen 2. So I feel like I can never get a Gretchen 3.
That's a good
Yeah,
story.
that's good. I like that.
Two really good questions came here in the end.
Okay.
One of them will be answered here. The other one will get sent to Doug. Garrett Parker, what's Doug's car that got away? Sold or missed out on?
Guy's got to sit back and think on a Jolly Rancher for a minute.
Yeah. Now we get to
There we go.
listen to his.
This smacking. You have to edit this. Actually, no, you don't have to edit this part.
Oh yeah, no one will ever hear this part.
That's a tough one to answer because I'm a dealership, or I've run a dealership for 20 years. So the line between ones that I sold that I wish I had kept for like investment purposes or whatever is very blurry versus what I would have actually kept for good. One of the ones that's on the short list is, I think it was a 2001 or 2 Aston Martin DB7 Vantage Coupe. It was a beautiful, bright blue color with linen or ivory or whatever interior. And I think I bought it for $28,000 and sold it. The guy I sold it to still has it. This was probably 10 years ago. And I think the DB7 is one of the most beautiful body styles ever produced. It's a really fun car to drive. And for that kind of money, I mean, they haven't really gone up in value much. You can get a nice one for 35 to 40 now. So the market has completely skipped over them, and that's a car I wish I could have back. So that's probably it, because that's a car I would have kept and driven.
Okay. Well,
Cool.
Thanks for hanging
Thank
out,
you all.
guys.
See you next week.